Hey, what's happening, YouTube? This is Hayes Anish, and I thought I'd do a studio update for you before I change my audio configuration. I want to talk about a few changes that I've made and some neat things that I've discovered, and just kind of go through the whole thing real quick. So I thought I would just kind of start out by going through all the different synthesizers and just showing you how they're set up. This is the main brain of everything, the Squirt Pyramid. From here, I pretty much control everything. Now, I've got a number of different MIDI hubs to help facilitate that. Mainly, in particular, is one back here behind the cat. It's a RetroKits RK004, and then I've got another one right over here behind where everything is situated in front of me. Those two are pretty much represented as A was the first one and B is the one that you just saw. So let's talk about all the synthesizers that are hooked up over here on A. The first one is the Pro 1, and it is on MIDI channel 1. I'm just trying to get there real quick. On channel 2 is the Neutron. Go up a couple octaves. Next is the K2. On channel 4 is the Model D. On channel 5 is the Cat. On channel 6 is the Wasp. On channel 7 and 8 is the EA1. And that's that green box way over there. So we just listened to these 6 synthesizers. And this is the first channel on the green box over there. And then this is the second channel, MIDI channel 8. And then channel 9 is the Crave, which is the orange flat box right there. Now its audio is routed directly into that black box, which is called the Plating Electronics Spice. It's a distortion unit. It's pretty cool. Track 10 is where the drum machine starts. So the first one is the ER1. And it's that far red box that's on the other side of the green box there. Next on channel 11 is the TR08, way over there, the black box. And then 12 is this lovely Delta Sep A, which is right there. And then channel 13, we start the 4 boutiques over here, starting with the TB03. Above it is the SH01A. Then over is the JX03. And then above it is the DO5. Now, that is the first change that I want to point out. The VP03 used to be there. I decided to get rid of it. The DO5 used to be right here where the A01 is. I put the A01 here because I was hoping to utilize its Bluetooth MIDI abilities. And while I was able to interface with it via Bluetooth MIDI, what I discovered is that the A01, correct me if I'm wrong somebody, but it's not really able to pass MIDI through. And I don't mean like a through port kind of MIDI. What I mean is take the incoming MIDI and then copy it and send it to the MIDI out to whatever channel it needs to go to. To me, that would have been a very important feature of the A01 to make it really, 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 really great, a killer machine. Real quickly, I want to say I love the design on this thing. I love the 4 rotary encoders. I love the 12 buttons, or excuse me, yeah, the 12 buttons, everything's, it's a really cool design that contrasts everything else about all the other synthesizers that I have over here, and I really appreciate that. But as it stands, I'm not sure that it's going to stay here much longer. But let's keep moving forward. So coming out of MIDI channel B, I moved a lot of stuff off of B, and B is kind of wide open right now for more things should I be able to get them in. But right now on track 1, excuse me, MIDI channel 1, I have the bass bots. Now I normally don't control the bass bot this way through the pyramid. I normally do it the other way around, but it's nice to be able to have the ability to do that. On channel 2, right next to it is the drum drone. And again, I normally don't use the pyramid to sequence it, but if I need to, I have the ability. Track 3 used to be the AY03. Track 4 used to be the Micro Freak that you see right here, but I moved them off. The Strike Fet over here is still on channel 5. A couple octaves up, sorry. and its audio is going directly into the Mr. Black Vintage Ensemble, which you can hear a big difference. That's with it off, and here's with it on. Now the the Strike Fit has 2 MIDI channels, kind of like the EA1, but it's a little different. The second one is more of a solo. You can do chords, but it's really meant more to be played monophonically. And after that, on channel 10 on MIDI B is now the Volca Beats. You used to have the Volca sample here, the Volca sample. I replaced it because the Volca sample requires a special MIDI cable, and I use one that's made by RetroKits, and it's great. But without getting into a whole lot of details, I do believe that the bass bot was corrupting it. And so I basically just decided, you know what, I can't deal with this anymore. So I just decided to go ahead and move it away. I've got a new main sampler, as you can see right here. We'll get to this in a second. So I kind of figured, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and just not worry about that headache happening again in the future, and just keep something that's going to be more reliable. Now, speaking of reliable, let's see if this still works for me. Next to it on track 11 should be the kick. And I do like to sequence it from the pyramid because I'm able to better control everything with it that way. Okay, so that pretty much covers all of the vanilla type kind of stuff. So what's happening next? Well, what I've done, pardon, you really can't see it back here, but that orange light that I'm pointing at, that is the RetroKits RK006 MIDI hub. It's pretty special. It's got a USB interface, and I'm able to piggyback the pyramid off of it. So the RK006 now acts as sort of like a USB host, and I can plug in a number of other things, such as my BeatStep Pro via USB, the KeyStep via USB, and anything else like my microKORG that I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to fit this guy in, but you know, I couldn't resist getting this thing. And it's only available, its only output port really is USB. That's it. But now I have the ability to hook this in with everything via the RK006. Not sure what I'm going to do yet though, but that will be another story. So right now, what I'm using this for, the RK006, is I got to think for a second. I am using it to get MIDI in, or MIDI out, excuse me, to the AY3 that you can see back there on the other side of the Mr. Black Stereo Vintage Ensemble. Which is pretty handy because that's basically I'm able to use straight TRS to straight TRS. I love it. And now on channel 4 USB is the MicroFreak. And just so you know, that is the MicroFreak. And pretty much the same thing with the MicroFreak, straight TRS, but not really straight TRS. That you have to swap the tip in the ring on the other side for its MIDI to work. And that is so cool. So just to be real silly here, I've got on MIDI channel 1, this is a synthesizer that I made. And I've got the audio routed through the Korg Monotron. But you can see a little green light right here lighting. And that's just a little synthesizer that I made using an Arduino, and it's got a little MIDI in circuit for a MIDI. Pretty cool, a little digital square wave. Okay, so all that's fine and dandy. What's really cool is I've also got 2 MIDI ins. Oh, one more thing that I didn't show here on track 10, excuse me, yeah, MIDI channel 10 of USB. For the first time, I'm able to use MIDI in on my MPX8, so I can, if I want to, sequence a few hits, get them more in rhythm with the music and everything, so to speak. So that's pretty exciting. All right, so what this does is that offers me 10 MIDI outs, additional MIDI outs, and 2 MIDI ins, plus whatever MIDI ins I can get via USB, and I can use a regular USB MIDI hub to do that. What I'm going to do is, I'm trying to think, I put something on the MIDI in, oh yeah. Okay, sorry. So here's where it gets very interesting. As you can see back here, this thing with the blue label, that is a WidiMaster virtual MIDI cable. It's Bluetooth. and it has an output and an in. I can better show you, I have two of them, so I can better show you this if I show you the one that's hooked up currently to the S2400. So out of the back here, we've got the big one is the MIDI out, and it gets its power from the MIDI out, and the MIDI in plugs in to the MIDI out jack or the connector, whatever, via this little tiny plug. This is smaller than an 1/8 inch TRS or 2.25 millimeter, however you want to measure it. And you just plug that in, and now you've got MIDI in and out. It's pretty slick. So I've got a pair of those over here. Now it's a little different though. I only have the MIDI out coming out of the RK004. Pardon, you can't really see it, and even if I went around to the other side, you still wouldn't be able to see very well anyway, because it's kind of a nest back there. But what's happening is that the MIDI in is plugged into the RK006 instead. So MIDI in from Bluetooth is coming in via USB, and MIDI out is coming out to anything via the RK004. That's pretty cool. You may say, well, why are you making it complicated? Well, this frees up, this prevents me from having to use 2 more MIDI cables, you see, because otherwise I would have to have MIDI in going to the RK004 as well as MIDI out going to the RK004. That's 2 ports on a 7 ports. That leaves me 5 open, plus 2 more for the WIDI, so that's 4. That only gives me 3 ports. This way, I'm using one of the ins on the RK006, which is fine because I don't have anything really else for in. The only 2 things that I have candidates are the Bluetooth interface and the EC4. Now, in order to do the EC4, I'm first going to have to make another cable. I don't have another cable that's swapped out. And this is actually pretty cool because this is an old cable that I was using. On this end used to be a 5-pin DIN connector. But however, these particular TRS connectors that I have, they're just a little too thick. And for a lot of things that I wanted to use this for, specifically the Twisted Electrons AY3 synthesizer, those jacks are too small for these connectors. And I am not going to use jacks that are too big for the connectors because you will damage equipment that way. Okay, so by the way, this is my little electronics workstation where I do my experimenting. Right next to it is where I do all of my soldering here. Get like a little light on it. This is a pedal that I'm working on that I'm not having much luck with, but hopefully we'll get it fixed. And oh, by the way, this is a great little vacuum cleaner. They don't make this model anymore. The one that I buy, Amazon stops selling it. But this is a really cool way to keep the dust off of my synthesizers. And we're coming to the end of the video here. Right now I haven't done a whole lot with the S2400. If I hit play, this is interesting. I don't have anything lined up on it, but if we look over here at the RK006, I'm getting like something in, a clock in, but this is not responding. So I've got to figure that out. I'm not worried. It's probably a setting that I haven't hooked up or anything like that. I don't talk too much about the Lyra 8. So, I mean, you know, it basically, I keep the volume down when I want to use it. I just kind of turn it up, or make sure to keep it muted over here. Right now in the background, you're hearing the hypnosis. Isn't that kind of creepy? I think so. Okay, so the Lyra 8, its audio comes out and goes into the Cali 76 compressor. And I mainly do that just as a limiter. I really probably need to find some kind of impedance matching solution instead, but this works pretty well. I was mainly doing that because I used to be using the Earthquaker device's Avalanche run as a delay and reverb for it, and the Lyra 8 was just totally overwhelming it. Really couldn't get a good signal into it, but now things are working pretty well, especially with the compressor. But I removed the Avalanche run, I replaced it with the Mr. Black Blood Moon Blood and Chrome, which is just an awesome delay pedal. I'll showcase that in a video someday soon, hopefully. And we're getting kind of to the end. You know, for the most part, all of the semi-modular speaks for itself. The one drum machine I forgot to talk about, the TR-09, and it's supposed to be here on 12. Yay, okay. So it is the exception to the rule here. Just pretty much everything over here is on MIDI bus A, as I want to call it, MIDI input A into the pyramid, except for the TR-09. And the reason for that is because once I get it into its play mode here, I come back over here, blah, 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 blah. And if I hit play, Let me do a couple things here first. And I'm just gonna hit play. We'll be fine. That's not gonna bother us to have the drum drone playing. But if we look really over here, you may see that the TR-09 is actually running. And I got one cable coming out of the TR-09. And that cable is coming right over here into the DFAM advanced clock. And this allows me, when it runs, well, oh, here we go. I was on the wrong pattern. Why does that happen? How is it possible that I would hit the one button right here accidentally that would sabotage everything that I wanted to do? So this way I can get the DFAM in sync with the tempo. And I've got a couple different patterns I can choose from. So this is actually really effective because I can program in whatever pattern I want this to play. And it's still a little weird because it goes across this 8 sequence thing no matter what, but it works out for the most part. It gives it just enough randomness to be interesting and different and not be very trackable, but yet at the same time, it's not off the beat and tripping everything up. Okay, so over here, behind everything is where I keep all of the stuff that I can't hook in currently. So here's all my pocket operators behind it, a bunch of like the knickknacks that I built myself. There's an MC303 back there that I need to get to work on one of these days. Here's the chord bot and the key step. Some pedals that I built that I'm getting around to sell once I fix them up. More stuff. Here's where I keep my spare TT303, and there's the TT78 stuck under that. Here's a spare B1 on and a G1 on. Here's the soft pop. I need to get this over to the mix, but it's kind of nicely covered up. It's sitting on top of my Roland MS1 sampler and my Alesis SR16 drum machine. Back here are a couple of TD3s that I have. A Korg SQ1, which I'm pretty excited to use as an expression input for my guitar pedals. And you know what? I haven't showed you guys this thing yet. This is where everything is going to be really cool. So what is this? This is my EWI 5000 wind controller. And I haven't really shown anybody this yet because I haven't really been able to effectively use it like I want to. It has a strap, but I'm not going to use that yet. And I hope this is going to work. We'll see if it does or not. I don't know. I'm probably not even in focus in the camera at this point, but maybe I am. So what I can do is when I'm not using the MIDI on the S2400, I can take said MIDI out Bluetooth thingy, power everything on, and let's pick a synthesizer. Let's pick, I don't know. I know. Let's try the bass bot. Now the question is this going to work off the bat? I don't know. Yes, it does. That's wonderful. Okay, cool. I like it. Bet you didn't know I could play saxophone. Well, I got a lot of work to do. I'm really rusty. So yeah, this is how cool is that? Now, one thing that I didn't show you is that there's this little black box. The top one is a speaker that I made, and beneath it is the sound module for this wind controller. And by the way, everything's being recorded into Audacity here. I'm going to take this audio and mix it in with the video that you see. This is my function generator and my oscilloscope that you should probably know about, and right next to it is the audio interface that's recording everything. But over here, as I said before, this is a sound module that is radio activated or whatever. It's like it gets the EWI, sends it information radio wise, and I've got it hooked into the Nady, which I'm going to talk about here in a second. But I don't really use the sound module for this thing. I'm really more interested in using this wind controller to control my existing synthesizers over here. If I need those cheesy kind of sounds, I can use the DO5. But the EWI sound module, it does have some pretty cool sounds in it. It's got some neat kind of trance type kind of stuff, and it's got some interesting woodwind sounds. So I'll experiment and play around with those some. But the 80 is set up. Right now it has as you can see, maybe it's got two TS connectors. I should be using TRS for common mode rejection, and I want to do a video on that real soon, hopefully demonstrating common mode rejection. But those come around here to I need to set my wind controller down carefully. Here to the rack. Let me turn on the light so we can see. And they come into these two channels over here. I can use stereo or two mono, it doesn't matter. So I'm getting to the end of the video. I want to kind of end it here on the rack. Maybe you noticed, maybe you haven't noticed, but I used to have a bunch of little masking tape notes over here on the left side of things saying fix me or clean. They're gone. So these are all running and active now. I've got essentially 10 compressors. I've got 2 racks of mono compressors. You can see I'm using one for my voice right now as a limiter, and I've got 2 stereo compressors. I want to use one of the stereo compressors to get to take my drum mixer, the output from this mixer, which is all my drum machines. I want to take those into one of these stereo compressors, mainly as a limiter. And then I want to look into using the second stereo compressor as a side chain for my voice when I'm streaming and doing other videos. Need to figure out a way to get the untouched music audio recorded to Audacity, and then at the same time simultaneously get my voice over with the audio over to Twitch or YouTube and have it actually ducking as I'm talking. That would be pretty cool. So, and here is my 3-part patch bay, and that's what I've got to get to work on next. It's mostly set up, but I need to go for this kind of sort of final stage, and I'm going to label everything, and all of my MIDI channels will be probably figured out and so forth. And yeah, that's about it for the video. There's a bunch of guitar pedals. All right, cool. Well, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the flip side. Bye-bye.